So today's panel discussion is about innovations in ABAP. So we are going to talk about what are the innovations are there in existing ABAP and how it has evolved towards the cloud. And we have now three special panelists here, and who is Nabid, who just now introduced Gaurav and Vijay. So let me just give a very brief introduction as a formality. So as myself, Mahesh, and I will be the moderator of this discussion. And um, now I will be introducing our three panelists. First one is Nabid Madan. So he's a very famous person in the community, and he's also SAP champion. He is working for Movitas Consulting, and he's having like 16 plus years of experience in SAP. And we have Gaurav here. So he's also having 16 plus years of experience, and he's also a very famous community member, and he's also member of the month, which has SAP recognized every month. So yeah, and he's working for SAP as a S4HANA solution architect. And next one we have Vijay, and he's I think many of you guys might know him from our last Yalsah. So he is pretty new in UAE, and although he's very new in UAE, he's still dedicating his time for the community and all these things. So that is very great of him. And he's also having 25 years of experience in IT and almost 13, 14 years of experience in SAP itself as a solution architect, SAP on cloud solution architect, and he's working for Deloitte. Right, Vijay? Deloitte only, right? This was my actual question. Yeah. Okay. So yes. Now let me start with the our main opening statement here, or the agenda of this panel discussion. So you see that there are many recent innovations and changes happened in conventional ABAP. So in our normal ABAP. For example, with the introduction of ABAP on HANA or the new language elements in ABAP, many tools or many things happen. As well as you see the latest introduction of SAP. 1 second, some guys joined. Yeah. So as well as the new introduction of SAP Cloud Platform and ABAP on cloud, right? So ABAP environment. So with this, which is a platform as a service. So this is a platform as a service which is offered by SAP Cloud Platform. So these many things have been introduced by SAP. So now this is the opening statement, and now let me start with the first question. So guys, how are your? I mean, what are your thoughts on this? So with all the innovations, all this happening in SAP, ABAP, and all. Any one of you can pick it and start.
Well, let me start then.
Yeah.
I will, I'll give you my view on it. Now, I'm not a developer, so I won't go into nitty-gritty of does ABAP have a future and stuff. From a solution architecture standpoint, what I've seen when I go talk to clients.
Yeah.
All right. No worries. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, the work from home wonders, right? That's pretty normal par for the course. When I've seen stuff, I mean, I'm basing a lot of my knowledge based on my European experience rather than the MENA region. So we'll keep it kind of generic. Customizations, which is what ABAP development for the most part is from clients that I've spoken to. SAP, whenever people are talking about SAP and talking about S4HANA, they're talking about the new cloud native solutions, so on and so forth. There's a strong push for standardization. And there's a push that if you're doing a greenfield implementation, in other words, if you're having a brand new SAP stuff, the push is try not to corrupt it. Corrupt is the word that the clients use. Not what I want to use, but they want to keep everything as SAP standard as possible, which means minimal development, minimal work. That's not always possible because every business is unique, every business is different. Development needs to happen, changes do happen. And I'm not talking branding, I'm talking actual business process change, solutioning change, even in Solution Manager to set up any kind of triggers and alerting, all of that is development. And a lot of that does involve some amount of coding, whether that's ABAP or whether that's some other language. The question I think needs to be not what is the future of ABAP, but what is the future of development in SAP? Do you still have a need for individual client developers, or do we just rely on SAP as off the shelf? It's something up to each business, I would assume. My thought on this topic is essentially that development is still going to be around. What is changing is the tools that are used. ABAP, the old SCAT, the old coding standards may change. I mean, I used to code in C back in the day, and now it's all online point and click. The same's happening in SAP. You're having your web IDE, you're having your UI5 development. So ABAP as a language may not be around, but development as such, the functionality is definitely going to be there, and I don't think that's going to go away. A developer is not going to be unneeded, unnecessary in SAP. That's just my thoughts on it, and I'll now hand off to someone else.
Okay, good. So maybe let me share my 2 cents, right? I have been a developer for the last 14 years and being close to code, and a hardcore ABAP developer for the last 10 years. After 10 years, the thought process change and all. But I think for any language to exist, it is important, or even for any community or everyone or anything to exist, it is important to evolve, right? Sadly, the ABAP hasn't evolved in those last 10 years, right? Or it was still the same way we used to code. Because imagine this, coding in object-oriented ways is still a challenge for an ABAPer, right? The 20-year-old challenge still continues. But but what has happened is SAP was also started looking around what is happening around. How is the open source world doing? How is the cloud world doing? How is, what is happening around? So that's where they realize that ABAP also needs to have those innovations. For example, if you check the recent innovations, the way we concatenate stuff in ABAP, or we do some regex, we use stuff. So those are all, new innovations which have come, which have been, the inspiration for them have come from JavaScript, Node.js, or whatever is the open source languages, right? So the ABAP has also evolved into something which is very flexible, okay, and where you can code dynamically like you code in other languages. And that's like that's where we talk about only ABAP on premise, right? And then eventually, because the topic is from premise to this RESTful cloud wrap model and all, right? So from there, so we have got our, if I remember correctly, there was this Fiori programming model draft enabled for this was there before coming of this wrap. I think, Mahesh, what do we call that? SAP Fiori.
ABAP
There is
programming
Web
model.
programming model.
programming model. Yes. So we evolved and we moved from there to this. And what happened with that was ABAP suddenly, right, became a server side language. That is where it started evolving. That okay, it will create APIs, it will create, expose the data, but the front end, they have those typical SAP UI5. So that means what SAP has done is the core struggle of beautiful UIs, right, where we were making those uglies, module pool and all that stuff, webbed info. So from there, they switched to kind of client and server kind of architecture, where client is UI5, beautiful apps, how the data is exposed, because they love their ABAP developers, right? They want them to exist, they want them to evolve. So that is where they bring in this Fiori model. Then came cloud. Cloud says, boss, we have Node.js programming model, we have Python, because Cloud Foundry is there, so you have any runtime. But then again, SAP was in a dilemma that there are millions of ABAP developer like us. That means what will they do in cloud? So that's where this, now it is called REST, this ABAP on cloud or something. Earlier it was steampunk. The day it started during Beyond Goenka, it was called steampunk. Now also I don't know whether it is still steampunk or not. Maybe Gaurav can add to it. But for me, ABAP is still not dead. It is as good as now any server-side language. You can design beautiful APIs. In fact, I don't want to talk about annotations and all, but I think these are the right steps to keep ABAPers relevant, right? But these are also the indications to our ABAP community that we make that transition in our mind from being an ABAP developer to just a developer, for which programming language is just an art. So I think I really appreciate the way our ABAP, what do we call it? The ABAP framework? No, the ABAP environment is growing, right? It is evolving with each day. Now, ABAP Cloud, you have every week or every month, they are releasing a new release, new features, which is, the agility has been added to it. So for me, ABAP is not dead and it is still rocking as it used to earlier. So maybe over to Gaurav.
Yeah. Thank you, Nabit. Okay. Uh, for me, I will second Nabit's thoughts that ABAP is not dead for sure. It's not dead, and and I would also say that ABAP never stopped evolving. Okay, from like from 4.6C to ECC and all, ABAP always had new syntaxes, new ways of doing things. Okay, we had object oriented as well. See, at that time, ABAP evolved, but ABAP developers didn't. Okay, the reason was that for since there were already so many versions there, okay, ABAP old version, and backward compatibility has to be there. Okay, so old way of working was still going on, so everyone was comfortable in that. So that is something people are still working on. That object oriented is still not a necessity. It is still not a mandatory things to do if you want to develop a application on your on-premise backend. Okay, but recently there have been a complete overhaul of this ABAP language. Okay, and and this is a complete overhaul as compared to what changes we used to have earlier, and I see some 2 or 3 reasons for this. One is ABAP on cloud. Okay. Uh, the ABAP is something which has been there for a long time. It is a foundation for digital core of intelligent enterprise as for HANA. Okay, so ABAP is not going anywhere. Okay, but the reason ABAP on cloud has to come, uh, it's because there is a lot of technical stuff or ABAP stuff there in the on-premise world. Okay, now if customers want to move to cloud, they will not want to write everything again in cloud. Okay, they want to reuse something from their on-premise system. Okay, and they have their full build teams, ABAP teams. Okay, just for the new development to move things to the cloud, they're not going to make a complete new teams. Okay, so there has to be some way where where people can still work in ABAP, and customers can also reuse lot of their existing code. Okay, so for that, ABAP on cloud has been introduced. It's a really welcome change. Okay, and it just makes easy for customers to move to cloud. Now, to move to cloud, everything cannot be done in ABAP. Or there are some things for which ABAP is good. There are some things for which Node.js and other runtimes are good. Okay, like if you want to reuse a function module from your backend system, yeah, if it's a ABAP runtime, it's easier as compared to if you want to do it in Node.js. Okay, so that is one reason. Since there were a lot of incompatibilities earlier, there were a lot of allowed syntaxes or statements which were there in the old version of ABAP or on-premise version of ABAP, which cannot be directly used in cloud due to compatibility reasons. Okay, so that is one thing. There has been a recent overhaul, and why this thing is being pushed on the on-premise. Okay, this is to reduce the technical debt. Okay, so SAP keeps on saying that you keep your core clean and lean. Okay, so if on-premise ABAP developers and on cloud ABAP developers, they keep on working in shells, like on-premise ones, they are working with the old way, then we just it becomes more and more difficult to move that code to cloud in future. Eventually, target is to move everything to cloud, to move all the custom code to cloud. And to move that, it's better to use latest ABAP innovations in your on-premise code as well, so that when this code is moved to cloud, there's a minimum work to be done there. Okay, and third, yeah, it really makes developers' life easy. Okay, yeah, there are a lot of things like even the small thing like data declaration we used to define earlier internal tables and all, so many data declarations earlier, but now it's just inline declaration. So yeah, it has really make developers life easier. Yeah, so I think these are the reasons that that ABAP has been in focus for some time now, and I think it is going to evolve more, and it's there to stay. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys, and very nice thoughts and good thoughts. Very informative. And one thing I see is resonating from all of you guys is ABAP is not going anywhere, and also we have to think of other skills as well as to keep our core clean. use latest standards in ABAP and don't screw up the code. This is what every one of you are telling. Nice. And we'll go to the next question. So I think this question is kind of little bit answered, but anyway, I'll ask this. So what would be the reason for SAP's paradigm shift? Paradigm shift from ABAP on HANA to or ABAP on premise to the cloud. So why exactly is SAP doing that? So can you guys talk about on that?
Yeah, I think I've shared my reason for
you
the
already
same.
shared. Maybe Nabit, we'll see Nabit.
Yeah, I think my my storyline already included, but okay. So I think there are many things behind this, right? One is why SCP is moving from on-premise to cloud is there can be in different reasons. One can be, to reduce the infra stuff, right? Which the cost and all, to make it easily accessible and all, right? But availability of ABAP on premise to ABAP on cloud is primarily to keep you, me, and everyone ABAP developer relevant in a cloud. That is very clear. Okay. Second is it is think in this way that if the ABAP on cloud is not available, then they'll have to hire some Node.js or somebody else, right? Whom they have to train, whom they have to make him understand that okay, this is how our business runs, right? Which means a lot of efforts need to be done. For example, imagine you have a custom web info ABAP app on your on-premise. Now you're moving towards cloud, and you want to use ABAP on cloud along with Fury, right? I think an ABAPer is still a best fit to create those APIs, right? Rather than getting somebody new and starting it from scratch, because he'll, as Gaurav already pointed it out, he can reuse stuff, which I think Node.js and all guys will have to learn and then create those libraries to reuse it in maybe another 5-10 years or whatever, right? And there are commercial reasons also to this, because commercial in the sense is in general SAP strategy from moving from SAP on premise to SAP on cloud. Commercial as in every company wants to grow, right? I'll put it in a very blank way. So they force you, like for example, Windows force you to go from 98 to XP to whatever, right? This is how they grow. So this is how SAP also grows. Although it adds benefit to the client and all, right? But for clients also, these are huge investments. It's not an easy decision. They have their business running, right? So there are commercial reasons which are more towards that how do we make our company, keep our company growing by bringing in new stuff every time. Now, if you, we are just talking about ABAP on cloud, there are like Kima, there are trillions of things. Why they are coming, right? There are benefits also, but there are commercial aspects also, that how much benefit will the company get if they will introduce this. So everything will have a money attached to it, the benefits, the revenues and all. But in specific to ABAP premise to ABAP cloud, it is clearly we are trying to move into client and server kind of a open world wide web architecture, where you have front end and the UI services, the back end services. Very simple. So that's what I think that's that's just I have to say, nothing more or less. Otherwise, I don't see any other reason. Maybe Vijay can add to it.
Sure, pretty much like what Nabit says. One of it is SAP pushing their upgrade path. The main reason they're doing that is, for those of you with basis experience, you'd probably remember every so often SAP would introduce an upgrade in the backend system and SAP GUI would start crashing because the GUI needs an upgrade. By moving to ABAP on cloud, they're trying to get away from that. They want to be able to control both the presentation as well as the backend, because almost everything is now cloud-based, if you will. While you still have on-premise systems, servers, and so on, the end user, the connectivity, the presentation layer, for the most part, at least in the vast majority of users, is internet-based, Fiori-based, or a web browser-based, where the concept of a thick client doesn't exist. SAP, by moving to ABAP on cloud, wants to be able to manage what the user sees. And this is a developer, so it's a power user, not an end user who's just clicking stuff. So whenever there's any modifications made to the backend, if, as they mentioned, right, there's a new API that's out, or there's a new component that comes out, that component can be automatically retrofitted or fitted into the system, and the end user, the developer themselves, should see a seamless approach. That is the main reason that I'm seeing why SAP is pushing ABAP on cloud for development users. I mean, from the IDE perspective itself, you may still use a thick client IDE on your workstation to do your coding, but everything is moving to be virtualized, to be online, where all you need is a device and internet connectivity or some kind of connectivity. The rest of it is centralized again. It's a bit like the olden days where everything is online and all you need is just a device. So not exactly client server, everything's back to the wax VMS days. But in general, that's my thoughts on it.
Nice. Thanks, Vijay. And thanks, Nabit and Gaurav. But yeah, this ABAP and cloud is a thing right now. But I hope SAP also, currently it's available as a free trial, right? For everyone can access it in SAP cloud platform, this ABAP and cloud. So it's free for everyone, and we can actually try accessing it and do all that stuff, right? That is actually one of the good thing, right? What do you say, Nabit?
Yeah, man, this at least that's, I think, one thing which SAP has done in last 5-10 years is they have started hearing about the developer pain. Imagine somebody who is new to SAP, he needs a server, man, and web servers are not easily available, or a cloud platform. So what SAP has done is, I think, technical that's what Gaurav used the term, right? So that's where SAP has worked a lot. So for example, now you have a BAP on cloud free trial, and in fact those 1 year also extension in some way has come, right? So at least, because if you talk about the other ecosystem of for example, open source one, everything is free, available, anyone can learn, try. But trying SAP, getting into SAP, learning it involves a lot of money, right? People charge you a lot of money to give those trainings and stuff, right? Now, but SAP system has evolved, right? And they provide things free of cost. Plus, those SAP developers are doing an amazing job, right? The SAP developers have the tutorials. You can go and learn anything new. You go and learn, and you can be productive on day one, or maybe within a week or so. So I think overall the approach has been, earlier there was demand for SAP to open up, to embrace the open source, and I think I see that overall shift happening in the overall approach. So I think trials are always welcome, man. Only they exist for infinite time, that will be great.
Yeah, actually, we are talking about this, right? Trials, all these things, and with tools that were provided by SAP ADT tools for Eclipse and all. So how do you think are these adaptable for the developers? How they can easily upskill themselves? Like you only said, right, Nabit, like from 11
For
years
example,
onwards, people are 11 years onwards, people are still struggling with object-oriented ABAP, and many new things are happening. Like recently, this RAP, all these things, and yeah, you see now. Recently, Gaurav has posted this thing in Twitter. He has got all 100 in this RAP course. So these are like really exciting and to see, and we also get motivated to all these things, right? So I mean, what do you guys say? Like, how adaptive are these new things to developers, and how they can upskill themselves, all these courses and all? Just your suggestions and thoughts on this.
I think maybe I'll go. My only thought is that get out of that ABAP developer mindset and goes towards, that I am a developer. Everything which works, right? For example, how does this Zoom meeting right now going on? What technology is behind? If you have that thing in your mind, then technology wise, it is all easy. You can learn anything. But if you are going to stick to that version, I'm saying if you, it includes me. I think 4 or 5 years back, I was like, boss, ABAP, I know only ABAP. How does this website work? I don't know. And that was something, I was always apprehensive. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a developer, right? I should know things. I should know how this world works, this technical world, right? And the first step is the willingness to learn, man. If you don't have the willingness to learn, keep supporting 4.6, keep supporting ECC, or even if you have worked on a BAP on cloud project, that will not help, because the as this there was this tagline on the first SAP this PPT, right? There was beneath, there was about you need to keep learning and stuff. So if you don't learn, you're as good as you are dead. Very simple. And that's what I realized after being working with the community. And so the first thing is you have to start learning things. Don't look for those ABAP or SCP tags. Doesn't matter. Think about open source. Think about different technologies. I'm not talking about here Kubernetes container, and there are a trillion things to learn, right? So important first is learning, and rest everything will follow. I don't have any other advice. So important is, if you have willingness to learn, if you keep your ears open, follow right people. For example, many of us follow DJ Adams, right? DJ Adam does crazy things, right? It not only works in a BAP, he works in everywhere, right? A BAP he has worked in 80s. Imagine this. So if you just look at what he does and try to imitate, learn, I think the path is very clear. Then there is no problem. But if you're going to stuck to that 9 to 6 job and doing those bug fixing and developments, and doesn't think about where I want to go, then it'll be tough. I think important is, again, just to conclude my blabber, that it is important to learn. The rest everything will follow, man. That's the only advice I have. Maybe Gaurav can add to it.
Yeah, thanks, Namit. I will just echo your thoughts only. First is like mindset is very important. Okay, that's the most important thing. Okay, no one can motivate you until unless you motivate yourself. Okay, so you can listen to n number of TEDx talks, talk to many people, and until unless you have that motivation coming from inside, no one can motivate you. Okay, that's one thing. Mindset is very important, and then yeah, again, second point is follow the right people. Okay, you see that what you want to do is to follow those people who have done this already. And the third point, I would like to add that I mean, this is something I have experienced. Probably Naveed may not have experienced this. Okay, there are so many things there. Okay, once you just come out of SAP domain, it's a big lot word. Okay, so just first, rather than being lost in that world, decide what you want to see, what do you want to learn, what do you want to do. Kind of put your target somewhere. Okay, so I think then if you just keep that target for 6 months, 1 year, then gradually things start falling into place. I think that's how you should uh, kind of target upskilling. And when it comes to upskilling from ABAP developers, if you just want to upskill on the RAP thing, there's a trial and there's a open SAP courses, and I'm a big fan of open SAP courses. I think those guys are doing a really great service. I think if you are in SAP domain and if you want to learn about what all SAP is opening to, okay, I think don't miss these open SAP courses. Okay, it takes a bit of effort, but I think it's well worth the effort. Okay, yeah. Apart from that, there are tutorials. Go through the community blogs. Follow Naveed on YouTube. Okay, yeah. I think these are the things that you can do, and I think probably once you start doing it, it will kind of motivate you to do something yourself as well, contribute as well. Yeah. Thank you.
I'll second what Gaurav says. The world, when you start wanting to go and explore, is very large. So focus on what you want to do. For example, if you say I'm a ABAP developer, what's the next best thing? Let me get into HANA development. Let me get into Fiori development. And SAP doesn't help by throwing all the different terms that you can be a HANA developer, an SAP, a Fiori developer, you can be an ALM developer. Everything you can be a developer, and they help push you down little routes. So it would help to understand a little bit about what your end goal is. Don't just go there and say, I just want to learn about HANA development, because you'll get sidetracked very easily. Understanding what your core skills are, understanding how to enhance them would be very helpful. I mean, you can definitely just dive in and start going through all the tributaries, and you may find something that you enjoy. But if you're looking at this pragmatically and saying, listen, this is what I'm doing now, I'm an ABAP programmer, how do I stay relevant? It's probably best to, as they say, right, find out what your peers are doing, find out what other folks in the industry are doing. To an extent, you can be a little bit of a follower to follow them, but at some point, you then also need to be your own person. You need to make a decision. Okay, I'm going to focus a little bit on this topic, learn a little bit more. OpenSAP is a great place to learn. Similarly, the SCN sites, SDN sites, and if you just start going on the forums, attending forums like this, asking people or networking, it's one of the easiest way to understand what is relevant, what is going to be relevant, and so on. So that is my recommendation, my thoughts on the subject.
Exactly.
And then just to add, Mahesh, maybe let me pitch in something more how
No,
it
you
works
can
for
talk
me.
for and
Yeah.
how
So
I mean
because
you can talk
I now,
continuous, no problem.
after hearing Gaurav and Vijay, I just remember how what actually happened to me when I started making this change, right? So I actually started becoming active on Twitter, and then there I saw there are jargons like Kubernetes, Docker, and there are cloud, and then there is the AI ML, and this ABAPer was like, boss, SAP UI5 Fury was normal to hear those days, but hearing these words were like, I don't know anything. At least being a developer, I need to understand how they impact me, right? Then I thought that okay, let me. It doesn't take, I think it more than a month or so to get at least a high level understanding of what Kubernetes is, what cloud is, what AI is, how it is different from ML, or ML is a subpart, or analytics or whatever, right? So that's where I slowly, I think I invested around an year or so, where few weeks, few months I talked about Kubernetes, okay, but at the back of my hand it was always running like, okay, how is this Kubernetes useful for ABAPers? I don't know why, because that's always there. Yeah? Once an ABAPer, always an ABAPer, doesn't matter whoever you are, right? So for me, what worked was I went through all these stuff at a very high level, listened to podcast, very important. Then reading books, right? And then not the technical books, the general inspiring books, which keeps you pushing that okay, you need to do something better, right? And then, as Vijay says, that okay, after you looked at everything, then you have to decide where you want to go, right? So you follow right people, you get the right jargons, whether you want to be go to infrastructure, whether you want to go to analytics, whether you want to go beyond this, become a data scientist, or whether you want to become a still remain an ABAPer, but a good one, or a Fury guy, or whatever, right? So I think that is how generally things work, right? And important is, again, you question things, you question the technology, and get an overview, then think through, then sit and then walk. For example, a few weeks back, I was thinking about, okay, I called up Gaurav and said, I have decided now I will become an AI ML guy. I will leave SAP, I'll become an AI guy. And then after 2-3 weeks, I was talking with him, I was saying, no, boss, I gave up. I will now continue to be in SAP space. So the important is this sense of uh, what DJ Adams call it is this thing where you have this phobia that you don't know enough. What do we call it? Uh, the
Don't
term.
remember. He keeps saying that
He
some
has that post also where you keep on thinking that boss, you still don't know, you still don't. That's it. In fact, a very good feeling because you keep on learning, right? So I think overall, Gaurav and Vijay have put in a very good point that you have to keep moving open SAP. There are trillions of things there available. Important is you want to learn or not. If you don't want to learn, thank you. Then it's okay. And you don't exist. Simple. If you don't learn, you don't exist. Very simple. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, Mahesh, I will just take 2 minutes.
Yeah,
Okay.
no problem.
Just going back to your earlier question regarding ABAP, okay, where we discussed about whether ABAP is dead or not. Okay, I would just want to put 2-3 comments there so that ABAP developers are not complacent that ABAP is not dead, we are cool. No. Okay, so let me be very clear that there's no future in SAP without ABAP, and there's no future in SAP with only ABAP. Okay, so if you
Exactly.
think that with only ABAP, your next 15-20 years are secured, no, they are not secure. Okay, but if you think that without any ABAP, you can continue with SAP domain for a long time, that is also not a very realistic possibility. Okay, so ABAP is there, will stay, but it won't be alone for sure. So you have to know other things to survive in this SAP world in future. That's what I feel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mahesh.
Another another thing I remember now. I I'm just because Sachin and me work from a location. We work from Chandigarh, right? And I was very fed up with my company, and I was like, boss, I need to make a change, but in Chandigarh, right? I looked around and I find there is no company which works in SAP, right? There are very less companies, and people are working in open source world, websites, mobile development, iOS development. I was like, boss, there is something wrong with what I'm doing. I need to know these languages. For example, tomorrow, if I don't know these and my job goes and I have to be in Chandigarh, how do I remain relevant, right? Then that is also was another trigger that you need to learn something. So I think sometimes circumstances force you, right? Sometimes if you individually you are motivated, very good, then there is nothing like that. But it is important to keep moving forward. I remember, I don't know the exact name, but Vishal Sikka said it in Infosys that you need to, if you can't run, keep walk. If you can't walk, at least bloody lie down and move forward. There's some big guy who has said it, but for me, Vishal Sikka said it. So important for us is to move forward and keep learning, man. That's very important. And be active in the community. That's what inspire you. For example, Mahesh is like a prime example, right? So I'm not praising you, don't smile, but he's very active, right? You take inspiration from him, that how many questions he answers, how many people he helps, right? So these things gives you satisfaction which cannot be translated into anything else, just pure bliss, satisfaction. Money to yeah, that's a byproduct of all the things, right? So important is be a learner and stay active in the community. So that's what I think is more important.
Yeah, exactly, Nabit. Like, sometimes people say that it helped them. They were struggling with that for 2 days, 3 days, and out of nowhere I answer, and they are like very happy and thank you so much. You made my day. And I mean, these comments will actually, they motivate you to learn more and help more. So they will not make your life boring, your development boring.
Yeah,
That
but
is
yes, of course, once you get married, then you have to balance between the community and the other things.
this is there.
Because otherwise then you will not be having a comfortable life if you are always on community.sap, right?
Exactly. This is what I also know. So I'm a little bit afraid now to get married, but of course I
Yeah,
don't have a choice,
that's
right?
very important point is that job is also not everything. Your family always comes first. So that is what we have to remember. Family always first. बाकी तो चलता रहेगा यार. Family is first, that is for sure. But yes, technology learning is there, but that's second. But if you'll keep learning as first and family as second, then it will be trouble. It's an advice from a gray beard guy that keep always family. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway.
exactly. So learning is the key. So never stop learning, guys. And like everyone is suggesting, right? Follow the right guys. So if you want to learn something, just don't blindly learn. Follow the guys. And for example, follow Gaurav, Nabit, or Vijay. I don't
No,
mind. I
don't
mean,
follow
they
us.
don't
Don't
mind.
follow us. No, follow whoever you feel like, man. Don't follow us because
I mean, start
we
following
also
you
follow.
guys. First, begin with. Start following you guys. At
No,
least.
because I also followed many people, and then I eventually realized, no, yeah, it doesn't, wavelength doesn't match, which is okay. Yeah. You have your own
Yeah.
view, I have my own view, right? So
Yes.
go ahead, at least start searching who is the right guy who you look up to, right? There's no harm in following and copying things. Yeah, this is the best, easiest way to move forward.
Yeah, and I assume you guys also don't mind people asking you questions about what they can learn or where they can go. I don't think you guys are more happy to help others, right? So that's why
Yeah,
just I mean I already pasted everyone LinkedIn and Twitter accounts in the chat. So just start following them, and from there go again see who are commenting in SAP about SAP. All these follow all of them, and that's the best
I
place
think
to.
no, I think don't follow us. At least follow the people who we follow because those at least have inspiration. At least I have not reached that level where I say follow me, boss. I am something. No, we are
Yeah.
not. We are still on that path. Follow DJ Adams, man. Follow DJ
You're just
Adams.
too
Follow
kind and
Thomas.
humble, man.
No, yeah. You follow
Yeah,
DJ.
we have to follow those figures, of
Yeah,
course.
those are the ones who set examples, right?
Yeah, I don't even know who DJ Adams is. When I started following you, then I came to know, okay, there is a guy called DJ Adams, and he is
Okay,
like
boss.
in different
Yeah.
level in technology.
For myself, if you folks want to follow me, just follow me on LinkedIn. All my professional stuff I put on LinkedIn. Twitter is where I went. So, following me on Twitter is not going to get you anything. And please don't follow me on Instagram. I don't post on Insta. So, social media, there are different things. But like Mahesh said, one of the things you definitely want to do when you're networking is look at LinkedIn. LinkedIn is still a good professional place. It's supposed to be only professional, so stay over there. And in LinkedIn, you can start finding. And the algorithms in LinkedIn are reasonably decent. Once you start following a few of us, it'll recommend other folks like us. And as Nabeed says, right, see the people that we're following, find out whose comments we're commenting on, and that'll help you expand the number of people that you should be looking at to get an understanding of what's there. I'm not saying just follow them just to increase follower counts, no, but to understand a little bit more about what's in the market, what are the trends, what are people talking about, it's the only way to do it. And it is not something that just assume someone else's identity and be them. Don't ape them unnecessarily, but make up your own mind. See what people are talking about, and then that'll help you focus on where you want to go, what you want to do, who you want to follow, who you want to listen to. And as always, don't just get blinkered. Don't go with skewed vision. Just I'm only in SAP. I'm only going to listen about SAP. Someone talks about something else. I'm not going to listen. No, everything fits in. Everything ties in together. AI ML, like Nabeed says, right? It may very well be unrelated to SAP in many ways, but then there's always going to be a link. Leonardo, why did SAP go into AI ML? Everything is linked to everything. Keep an open mind, and that's about the only thing I can recommend. Just keep an open mind.
Yes, exactly. I mean, you guys are talking about these, right? Additional open source things or this ML, AI, all these things. So, I mean, you guys have given small hints about this, but I'll frame it into a question. So, how do you think these open source technologies or other stuff, right? AI, ML, all these things, which are again available as other open source products. So, how useful are these for the ABAPers? Now they have to stick with ABAP, or if they learn this, do they get any other benefits out of it, or any SAP? I mean, how they can make best out of them, other open source apart from ABAP.
Maybe Gaurav, you can start. I'll be back. Give me 2 minutes.
Yeah. So Mahesh, I'm actually not too much into open source thing. Okay. I am primarily into whatever SAP is putting its hands into. Okay, probably SAP cloud platform services and all. I try to focus on those things. Okay, AI and ML. Yeah, I had looked into those things. Okay, but I then thought that maybe not my piece of cake for now. So then I just came back to what gives me my living. Okay. So yeah, so AI and ML, I'm not the right guy to suggest you something on that. Yeah.
A bit like what Gaurav is saying, right? It depends on what you want. Are you doing this because this is part of your job and you're learning it as part of your job? Then yes, focus on what is SAP centric. If SAP is your job and you're focusing in the SAP ecosystem, do Leonardo, do sensors, do ALM, things like that. Cloud native, SAP cloud native functionality. On the other hand, if you're learning it for yourself because you just want to remain open, in other words, you classify yourself as a developer and you just happen to work on SAP right now, but you're a developer. In many ways, that makes you an author. You work with development, you code things. It doesn't matter what you code in. Today you're coding in ABAP, tomorrow you can code in something else. Learning an open source framework, learning JSON, learning just how to use an IDE, for example, whether it's Web IDE with the ABAP add-on or Web IDE with some other add-on, essentially just an IDE development engine. It is always a good thing. Being open to open source frameworks is never a bad thing. It can always be used in SAP. SAP to a great extent is still proprietary. They try to use and recommend and push their proprietary frameworks, but that is changing. The world is moving towards cloud native. It's moving towards industry standard, if you will, open frameworks, open source frameworks. And OSF, open source frameworks, is definitely something that it doesn't hurt to know. It doesn't hurt to learn. You're not going to lose by spending time learning open source systems, by learning newer technologies, non-SAP technologies. It'll never be a bad thing. That's my thought, at least as someone who is a non-core developer. It's probably more true for infrastructure. I will hand off to the hardcore developers among us for their thoughts on the topic.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to also add is, like, for example, see, even for Fiori applications, we need JavaScript. It's not just UFI. UFI also needs JavaScript. We need to learn that. or for if you see even in many of the ABAP related products itself, you need some open source technologies to learn, like Node.js also it's now coming. So yeah, I think Nabid can answer this.
Man,
Yeah, I think
you can very well
sorry.
answer, man. Yeah, Gaurav, go ahead. You were saying something.
No, I was just saying that after ABAP, if you want to move to something else, okay, I think JavaScript is kind of low hanging fruit, because that is something you will get to use in your SAP application as well when you develop UI5 application and all. Okay, so probably start with something which you can actually use in your day-to-day work. Okay, that helps. Yeah, Naveed,
Yeah.
over to you.
So maybe I have two different views here. Two different views as in two benefits. Okay, one is like what does learning other languages have benefit to me in my regular ABAP life? The answer is plainly yes. Because if you learn JavaScript, Node.js, you learn certain patterns of the way they do things, right? And they do things, for example, JavaScript, everything is an object, right? So the moment you start learning those things, once you do your ABAP stuff, you think in then that term, right? That okay, now rather than creating that maybe a module, function module or something, I'll create a class, create some methods, take those baby steps. So these learning these languages, one is inspire you because each language is different. They teach you something. I don't know how many of you know this guy named Alvaro Teza is a XSAP mentor, and he has done program. He knows 40 programming languages. 40 programming languages, and I have interacted with him, and all I asked him was, what is the benefit of it? He says, I learn each time I learn a new language, I learn something new, the way they do the same thing, and I try to implement it in our core language. So to answer it, yes, we shall go ahead and learn whatever we feel like. The world is your JavaScript, HTML, CSS, as Gaurav said, will help you in SAP UI5 in your day-to-day world. I think for me it was Free Code Camp, the best resource where I learned something, or Code Academy, whatever, right? And I think important for you is again the keep learning, and low hanging fruit definitely is, if you are a BAPers, and definitely you will go towards OData or SAP 5, but don't go directly to SAP 5. Learn your JavaScript, HTML, CSS. Otherwise, the client, pity on the client if you're directly going to SAP 5 without understanding JavaScript, because definitely you will mess up things, right? So as Gaurav said, my advice will be go towards JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and add to it Node.js also, because this is like kind of an industry standard. As Python is also there if you are more interested in AI, ML, Python, R, and stuff is there. But yes, that is more important. And secondly, if you look at, I don't know how many of you have heard about ABAP Git, right? And because normally our open source world, people can work in same objects in a different way, right? They can work, multiple peoples can work. In ABAP, we cannot, right? And we still cannot work in a very proper distributed way. But still, ABAP Git is the one of the first step in that direction, at least where we can have our objects easily transportable, deployable, and with now it is also being used in our RESTful ABAP wrap, the ABAP cloud programming model. So I think important for any developer as of now is to understand Git, the basic concepts of Git. If you don't understand that, please, it's a request, go ahead and at least learn them, right? There's a very good OpenSAP course, one of the best one, which was, I don't forget the name. So you can learn Git there, the basic concepts. You need to understand JavaScript, boss. You cannot exist in this world without JavaScript. That is clear to me. Java, I'm not recommending because I hate Java, to be honest. Why I hate Java, I don't know, but it hasn't clicked me since day one, right? And now, since it's more of an Oracle product, so thoda sa I am bit now. I try to stay in world which is very open source and things. So you can go ahead and at least don't stand there. Don't be like a stagnant water. Keep moving, keep moving. So start with JavaScript, Git, and this Free Code Camp. Anybody who wants to learn about open source world, Free Code Camp is the best site ever I have seen. That's like, it gives you everything free and you can learn it. And then I hope you will apply those concepts. So that's what I think. Maybe that's my 2 cents, man. Yeah. Over to you, Mahesh.
Thanks, Nabid. That is actually true. JavaScript is very much required in this world. It's like an essential thing. even more than ABAP, I feel like, because everywhere everything runs JavaScript. And Nabit also is doing this JavaScript tutorials, all these things as well. So you can follow him in the YouTube channel. I posted it. And one thing is, as Nabit saying, yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, one thing Nabit is saying, if you see, he's talking about, you are talking about Git, right? So yeah, I think now Git is becoming an essential part of ABAP, right? Especially now it has very much prominence in the ABAP on cloud. Although in our normal systems also we are using ABAP Git to actually download the open source projects and all. So yeah, it's very nice. And these new things and CI/CD pipelines, all these things are also coming up, which are actually kind of difficult for even for me also. Although I'm very much active in the community, sometimes I feel like, what the hell is CI/CD? Why? Sometimes I feel like that. Earlier I was thinking, why I even need to learn CI/CD? Why I need to learn Kubernetes? I think I spoke with you about this, right, in last decade. Why I need Kubernetes? So I mean, things are changing now. I am also trying, but still some things are a little bit difficult for ABAPers, especially for non-JavaScript open source people, right? The CI/CD.
I think you've made a valid point. The things are difficult to ABAPers, but they are not tough to learn. I think if anybody learns JavaScript and Git, okay, just these two things, then you are very well placed to understand what is CI/CD, right? How does distributed version management works, right? And how does code gets deployed from development to quality to production seamlessly, instantly, right? I think the moment you start taking those baby steps into this open source world, then things like, then you suddenly feel comfortable. Okay, wow, now I'm at peace. But if you look at from still being an ABAP developer, then these all jargons are bouncers for me, right? Then there will be bouncers. Yeah, they were bouncers, right? I remember one of my relative asking me way few years back that, okay, we need to make a website. And I was like, boss, WebDin Pro application I know, module pool I know, but how do I make this website in the cheapest way? I was like, no, I don't know how to make it. And this guy was like laughing and like, you are an IT guy, you don't know this. And I was like, yeah, man, I don't know this, right? So even my kid asked me, Papa, you are a developer, why can't you make a game for us? So understand this, these questions you get, right? You get from your relatives around, from your, so I think it is important we become a developer, and then we actually become comfortable and we start doing crazy things. For example, there is this Unity here. Unity is there to create those applications, these games and all, right? And then if my kid will demand more and more, I'll have to learn, right? Otherwise you can't say no, because the same thing he will do, right? You need to inspire people, then only they will do something. Otherwise things will go. So I think, again, I have my own rant, which is keep learning, keep moving forward, man. Yeah.
You can
And
stand by.
Stack Overflow. When you talk about open source, don't forget about Stack Overflow, man, because Stack Overflow is one place where you will get all the help. It's an awesome community site apart from our community.sap.com. Yeah.
Exactly. Stack
Yes.
Overflow.
Yeah,
For
Shiri,
JavaScript, if I get anything, I Google, and first thing that comes is Stack Overflow.
yeah.
I think I learned most of the JavaScript from Stack Overflow.
Same here, man. Agree.
Yeah. Thanks, Nabit and guys. So, and we have the final question. So, till now we were talking about ABAPers to learn other technologies. We are still in the SAP world. SAP is dominant in ABAP. Now you see other guys like JavaScript guys or Python guys to come to SAP world. This is very, very difficult. Even for JavaScript guys who learn UI5, right? So it's actually kind of difficult for them to understand these integrations with ABAP, OData, all these things. I mean, not only that. So basically, what I'm trying to say is everything is revolving around ABAP in SAP world. So now the question is, so there are a lot of open source developers out there, not only the ABAPers. There are like 10 times more than ABAPers, or even more open source developers out there. So how can they, contribute to SAP, or how can they get involved in SAP in this world of ABAP? Is ABAP still a constraint, or you please provide your thoughts on this.
I mean, ABAP is not a constraint at all, okay, because the open source developers to come into SAP ecosystem, I think they start interacting with the SAP Cloud Platform services first. They are not really working into the core. Okay, so if you're actually developing something in the core, that's where it kind of becomes a bottleneck for them, constraint for them. But otherwise, I think if you want to, if as an open source developer you want to work in the SAP domain, SAP Cloud Platform is all there for you. And to work on SAP Cloud Platform, if you don't know ABAP, I think it works. There's no issue there.
Yeah, I think Mahesh, they are also in the same spot like us, right? For an ABAPer, it's to learn Fiori, HTML, JavaScript, then only we will understand the other pain. For an ABAP, for a open source guy, he needs to understand ABAP, right? Unless he is dealing with not exactly. It's like if they understand it, it is good. Otherwise, normally what we have right now is an ABAPer is creating our data services, and the Fiori guys, JavaScript guys can handle it on their own. So it's like it's not a constraint, but it's a nice to have. Okay, when you say it's nice to have, it is nice to have. If, for example, you are an ABAPer and you are talking to somebody who is a Fiori developer who has come from a JavaScript background, and if he understands ABAP, at least the conversation will be very easy, right? Else, it will be like that functional consultant and technical consultant war, right? So I think it's not a constraint, but it is a nice to have. Same goes for us. For example, if we learn SAP UI5 directly without understanding JavaScript, HTML, CSS, it'll be a constraint, it'll be a struggle for us. But if we understand JavaScript bit better, then I think the life will be a bit easier. So for me, it's like nice to have rather than being a constraint.
Yeah,
Maybe,
just adding to that, Navit. Okay,
yeah.
when we work as like in SAP domain, we are not just developers. Actually, we are consultants. Okay, so when you are talking to the customers, you are not only talking about ABAP. And as SAP world is opening up, so it's really good to have the kind of overview of how all other things are fitting in. Okay, like if we are ABAP developer or technical consultants, we go to customer and talk to them. Okay, we should know that if a SAP Cloud Platform service is getting integrated, how it is getting integrated, how this OData service is getting generated. We may not know the technical nitty-gritties, but from the overall architecture point of view, we should know. I think same is the case with open source guys as well. And when we are working as developers or consultants, we don't always remain developers, right? We graduate and we become architects. Okay, so
Yes. Gaurav
that's where
Paritara, architect.
that's where
Change
you
the
need
title
to
that.
know all these things, right? You
Yes.
cannot be an expert in everything. Okay,
Yes.
you cannot be expert in all the technologies, but you should know why some technology exists, why this technology is better to do this job than the other technology. Okay,
Uh,
so from that point of view, you should understand things.
100% agreed here, because you will have different plugins to which will come forward and make a product. For example, if things are running in a Kubernetes, you need to have, okay, this is a solution, this is how my app will run, this will use so and so, right? It will use a Docker
Mm,
image, I will use this
mm,
ABAP, HANA, whatever jargon you have, you can throw. I think very valid point, Gaurav, because as with experience, you become the architect, right? Yes, definitely, this is a valid point. And yeah, that's what people expect you to answer. They will not come with developer report. They'll come with their own business problem. Then you will decide which technology will fit and give its answers, whether you need a cloud, whether you need more data service, whatever, right? I think, yeah, got a fair point. I agree. Maybe Vijay can chip in. Vijay? Or anyone
Oh
can
no,
chip
you
in.
guys, well, you guys made the valid points, and that's pretty much my feeling as well. There's nothing more that I can add to it. But I would be interested in hearing, well, as you say, from the other folks who are over here. It's not just us
Yeah.
panelists who are talking. Someone from the
Yeah.
audience, if they'd like to share their feedback, their thoughts, I'd be very interested in hearing that.
Same here. Yes.
I think maybe I will put some comments on this. I think you're able to hear me, right? I just again rejoined.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We can
perfect.
hear.
So yeah, maybe I think in 2014 or 15, it was kind of a boom in this ABAP language changes. Right, I used to take trainings when I was in Wipro to people. So I took a session on ABAP on HANA, code push down, this AMDP and stuff. So,
Yeah.
so right after this training session, one veteran ABAPer actually, so he used to be a core ABAPer for around maybe 10 years by that time. This guy came to me and asked upfront what he will do, because he is not, understanding this core concept of AMDP, core SQL script, and all these changes. So he was so afraid that what will happen to him as a core ABAP developer. What's going to happen to him in his career? So I at that time tried to console him. Okay, this is something you can easily understand and adapt. There is no big deal in all of things. We all learned ABAP because of mainly one reason. It's plain English. It's. I don't actually even call ABAP as a core programming language. It's plain English what you're writing there. A person who speaks English can easily understand ABAP. That's the opening statement for most of my ABAP training sessions. So I actually gave the same input to him at that time. Couple of weeks back, I called him again. Now he is actually upgraded himself to ABAP, auditor development, CDS, and Fiori development, all those things. He has adapted to the changes. So I think people are being a little adaptive to the new changes SAP has brought in to this environment. So by the way, it was a very nice discussion, all of you guys. It was great, good information you put in. Thanks a lot for that. Actually, this recording will help me. Actually, I can share it with many people who has the same concern, I guess.
I think you made a very valid point, because people are not adapting to, for example, I'll take object oriented as an example, right? People will not change, but the system will make them change. For example, now if you have to work with OData services, you cannot create a
right.
Although they will call a function module inside a class and stuff, but that is another thing. But at least the framework is slowly pushing them. For example, Gaurav is working in this for a cloud area, BAP area, advanced one also. He must have seen, also he pointed out that the system is also pushing it, that okay, go the right way, keep the core clean, do it in a right way. Now, I think day before yesterday or last week, this book came also, Clean ABAP, right? The Clean ABAP something, SAP Press book, which, so that's also
Clean up.
Yes.
Clean ABAP. It also guides you of how do you do some meaningful stuff. Although the client has its own awesome development guidelines, the naming conventions,
that's weird actually. Mostly.
Yeah, so the client will also change. I think they will change, but change is always same. It's the inertia which keeps us from moving ahead. So the inertia is also for the developer, for the end user, for everyone, right?
Very true.
Yeah, I think you made a fair point. But I think the system change will help us to move forward.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I mean we cannot stick back to the conventional way of doing things, right? Now maybe I think when we start a new, even an ABAP core development, we don't focus on developing function modules anymore. I don't see anyone developing Web and Pro applications these days. So we started thinking on a Fiori aspect. Okay, we are innovating new things. We don't want to stick back to the old, non-good-looking stuff. That era is over. Even for a report program, we start developing, classes and start from there. No more function modules. No more normal screens. So we all adapted. Actually, eventually it happened. We didn't even know that. Okay, we are forcefully moving from function modules to classes. We don't know. We just moved automatically. I don't know when I started coding in classes. I don't know. I don't remember actually the time. So that change has happened already.
Yeah, and those are the baby first steps, right? So the next level is basically, for example, I don't know, but for example, I was talking to somebody and he has, the same thing, he has created a report with classes and all, right? And my first question to that person was that, okay, you created this class, how do you decide whether this method is static or instance based, or whether this attribute is public, private, or protected and all, right? And then what I get the answer was, sir, ऐसे ही होता है. This is the way how we do it. I don't have. So, ठीक है, you are.
Yeah, it happens
The
a lot.
problem is we will move to object oriented. We will use CL_GILV grid, right? But
Now
but
SALV.
you end up messing up the things that much that then the other person who is fixing it will say, boss, module build was or the procedural was better, right? So I think in case you want to take the plunge from procedural world to object oriented or functional programming or test driven development or behavior driven development, it is important also to understand what principles they follow. For example, there is a concept of design patterns, right? The proxy which we used in our SAP or the factory class which we use, these are all design patterns, right? And it is important for every one of us to understand those design patterns. I started reading them sometime back and then I was lost in middle of it, but they are like set of problems, they are set of solutions to a set of known problems, right? That actually tell you how do you structure your stuff. So I think, at least what I was happy with that, okay, boss, you have taken the first step, very good. Now let's keep moving
Let's
forward.
innovate on that.
Let's innovate on it. Let's not take it as that this is the best object-oriented code I have written.
Correct. Mostly, for namesake, people start coding using this for the namesake. The new ABAP, new SQL statement, new Open SQL statement. For the namesake, we're using it, but without understanding what the potential of the stuff is. Okay, let's use it. Let's try it. That's it. So rather designing from the as a whole, just for the sake of using some classes and instance and factory classes, so just start writing things. Okay, at least it's a step 0, I would say, of transition. But still, it's a good start.
But actually, your points are also valid, man. Like people who don't have enough idea of the architecture, the design, all these things, they start developing that particular thing, right? If they don't know the overall JavaScript or UFO, for example, we'll consider Fiori applications, because you can mess up Fiori applications very bad. You can make it performance very bad if you are, not doing the things properly. So these things are there. Yeah.
And imagine
side effects are also there.
You are assigned the responsibility to fix that Fiori or UFO app. That'll be nice.
No, I'm just saying in general. I have seen my friends' projects or in my old companies. So based on that experience, I'm checking. My friends who complains to me.
Even I will be honest here. Sometimes I also take the shortcut, right? It is not that I am like the best object-oriented programmer or the functional. I also have my own cheated ways. Oh yeah, I will not create a class. I'll call a reuse LV grid and get the things done, right? So I think that's a call which you need to take. That's a call which you need to take. But you should have a willingness to adapt anything. For example, abhi we are talking about object-oriented. We are not talking about test-driven development, where there was a complete course in ABAP, Open SAP course, test-driven development, right? And I don't know how many have done it. So I think, but yes, again, the point is, again, yes, take baby steps, but keep moving forward. That's important. Yeah.
Right. And especially considering this new SAP cloud platform services like IRPA, all these things, chatbots, SAP is giving like very good integrations to SAP S4HANA. We can now easily integrate chatbot. And this chatbot is also provided by SAP. You don't need to do additional developments. You just need to go there to cloud platform, create that, and assign it. So it's as simple as it. Even IRPA bots, many things are happening. Cloud programming model for cloud application programming model. So
yes, but one thing which is always there is confusion, right?
Yeah, this gives confusion. Exactly.
There's a cloud application programming model, there is a ABAP programming, this app, and then there is a chatbot, then there is IRPA, then this ABAPer, what will he do? Will he learn everything? Then that's where I say that, boss, you're a developer, you will learn everything, whatever the job demands or whatever your interests are. Otherwise, you will not survive, right? Whether you're an architect or whatever by designation, but you're a developer by heart. So confusion will be there. For example, I think it is okay to be confused. यार मैं उसका exact word ही भूल गया यार. What do we call it? Let me Google it. Anyways, so maybe you continue. Meanwhile, let me find the word. What was that?
Yeah, exactly. Like too many things are there, and especially in just 2-3 years, right? All these services came up, and it's like of course, customers will take a lot of time to move into those. Even customers will also, think twice or thrice, even more, maybe another 3 4 years 5 years to get those services. But yeah, it's better if we start exploring those options. What are those services? What are these things that are available? Different JavaScript based services, many are there, cloud platform services, which are very interesting. And actually, I do ABAP development, UFI development regularly. I get really bored with all this development. I don't know how many of you guys feel like that. So sometimes I look at all this enterprise messaging, all these things. I just it gives me a little bit excitement. At the same time, it also makes me feel sad that I'm not going to push this in production, because this is just learning for me only, and maybe for my future opportunity I will just use this. So yeah, many things are happening. I think it's better we parallelly learn all this, explore all this, follow some of the guys who are sharing all these tutorials, like DJ Adams. They share all these things in YouTube and all. Just follow them, and we can, at least we don't need to learn in depth. We'll get to learn on the top, right? So once we get the situation, and then we will rewind them, and then we can easily implement them by checking those options. That's what I also feel.
Yeah, Mahesh, can we just ask? Request the audience. Can we get more questions or opinions
Yes.
from audience? I'm really interested to hear, because we guys have been speaking for some time now.
Yeah, guys, I hope you have listened right till now what was happening, and also please feel free. This is just a casual discussion, right? We are like friends. You saw Nabit and Gaurav joking and all, so don't think twice before asking question. Just feel free to ask any question. If you can answer, we can answer, or else we will say we will reply later. So yeah, please feel free.
Hi Mahesh, Kishore here. Hi Nabit and Gaurav.
Hi, Kishore.
Thank you, sure.
Hi sir.
I mean, it's not only questions. It's sorry, Kishore.
I'll share my experiences. Yeah. It's
exactly.
not about questions, but good that I'm part of this lively discussion. So last time I met in TechEd. So unfortunately, I didn't met Gaurav. So I thought of meeting him as well. See, from my experience, I'm also an ABAPer, core ABAPer from past. I have experience of 12 years. I'm doing Fiori as well from last 3-4 years. So for me, it's very difficult to switch that from ABAP to JavaScript, because JavaScript is purely on the object based. And so then I went back to the famous Thomas Young ABAP objects video series, if you guys know. So I've gone through that and started implementing OOPs in ABAP. I mean, of course, in the procedural way we have done it, but OOPs I think is the future, because S4 HANA, if you see any of the S4 HANA objects, it's purely on the OOPs base. So the other day when I was debugging the migration cockpit, it's completely, I mean, we'll go bonkers because it's completely an OOPs based programming. And also the other point was one should always, I think, as rightly said, JavaScript and GitHub. So when I heard GitHub, Microsoft has acquired it for 8 billion, I thought, what's so special about GitHub that it has acquired? And if you see now, the GitHub has came into S4 HANA also. I mean, the entire transport management has been enabled with GitHub. GCTS is a new concept which came into S4. So, I mean, there are a lot of stuff happening, and I mean, it gives a kick to learn. I mean, all this stuff. So, so I keep following. I mean, I'm not a contributor to community much, but I keep following. I'll spend at least an hour or 90 minutes a day in community, following the posts on Fiori elements and UI5, all the stuff. So, I mean, it's a good experience. I mean, the transition has been good for me. But I'm still keep learning now. Thanks to Nabit for sharing this YouTube series on UI5, Node.js, and Fiori elements. But Mahesh has contributed so much on the Fiori elements, the CN community. So good. Thank you guys, and I'm
Sure,
good that I'm part of this call.
this Fury element was supposed to be done by Mr. Mahesh. He's the criminal here, and he was like, he doesn't have time, so that was. But anyways, I think
Sorry, man.
sure you're already doing a good job, right? I think spending 90 minutes daily is, I think, from if you ask me how much I spend daily, I don't spend and that much time, and but that's the great thing. 90 minutes is like a good amount of learning, man. Great. And
I dedicate at least an hour to 90 minutes to on community to read the blogs because so much of stuff happening around. So I was part of the ABAP on cloud project as well recently. So it was also a very good experience, and of course it's a limited ABAP, but it's very good experience for me.
very nice. I think Kishore, you're ready for the next step, which is to give it back to the community, man. Start answering basic questions also, which is okay, right? Nobody is going to penalize you. But I think spending time
Actually,
in whatever
Kishore
way is
already
awesome.
contributed recently. He created a blog post on Fury elements. Yeah.
Man, you are already contributing.
Side effects. Yeah, I have posted a blog recently on side effects on Fury elements.
Very
Side effects
good.
of learning community also, that one.
Yeah.
Very nice. Great.
Thank you, guys.
Good.
Great. Thanks, Kishore. Anyone else who would like to share the experience?
Yeah. We'll be happy to hear about it so that we can also learn. There are also many different ways. So feel free to come up.
Hi, Nabit. Hi, Mohit. Mohit Bansal here. Can I share my experience? Hi.
Yes, Mohit, feel free.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Yeah. So really, thanks. I'm really enjoying the session from you guys. You guys are really doing too good for community, for sharing your thoughts and every blogs and so many things. And I'm really happy to see people are investing time and learning the things. For the Fury elements, we are also using extensively from last 2-3 years, and I can see the difference. Like for many of the S4 clients we have implemented, so like many of the problems that we used to get from the typical Fury, like the freestyle applications and all, it has been really helpful from the Fury elements when we have started Fury elements extensively. Few things that we have recently implemented actually put on project for which we are working. So we have adopted few different approaches, like instead of following the typical BOPF architecture. So what we are currently doing, I'm just sharing my experience and I want to hear from you guys, like whether that was the correct approach or something. Like personally, we found like BOPF was quite heavy architecture and all. So we have on the knee, like on the underneath, we have followed all the CDS architecture and everything. So all our CDS and all the UI annotations and everything we have kept the same it is. And for the correct functionality, for our CRUD functionality, instead of utilizing the standard BOPF, we have implemented our own architecture, implemented our custom, like the create entity, the save draft functionality, and everything we have designed our own. So we have just bypassed the BOPF and we can see the difference. Like it's in fact, we have around 8 to 10 object facets and it was actually very fast. So that was one of the points that I want to share with the community. We have recently started to learn for the UI integration card, which is actually very new. So instead of typical OBP pages, SAP had also recommended us for the UI5 integration card and just exploring the UI5 integration card instead of OBP pages. So these are the 2-3 things I am currently working. So just thought to share my ideas with the bigger community. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, you were already telling me, right, last time when we were connecting about this awesome framework you have done. Like it supports draft also, or it's normal?
Yes, it supports the draft everything. So for the draft, what we have done, we have written those draft annotation at the web ID layer only. So when it hits to the backend, it just calls that the same way like the patch entity and all. So it is working exactly like the same standard S/4HANA typical BOPF based application, but we have bypassed completely BOPF here. Yeah.
So, Mohit, very nice. My only query is, when are you planning to open source this framework? So, maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know if it has copyright issues and all. Otherwise, if you think it's available for everyone and it doesn't have copyright issue, I would say that go ahead and share it with us, and we can
Yes,
also
yes.
use.
I don't think it is a copyright issue because it's just architecture that we are bypassing the standard BOPF and just doing the same thing with the standard web ID notations for the draft annotations and everything. So I will try to write few blogs on that if I'll
Yeah,
get some time. Yeah.
yeah, that will be most welcome. Yeah, good.
Nice, man. And Vishweswaran is raising a hand. You want to speak, man?
Who is raising hand?
Vishweswaran.
Yeah, Mahesh, I want to speak. I just want to ask two questions. So,
Okay.
shall I?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. First of all, thanks for giving me this opportunity to talk. And I'm into SAP for past 4 years, and I started my career into SAP UI5, and now upgraded to Fieri. And what the question I just want to ask is, I just want to enhance into ABAP. So, in what approach I can do that I can enhance to ABAP? Because I can see that above coding seems to be very simple, but it includes more business logics. As a front-end developers, we feel mm, more difficult to learn the business. So what are the baby steps I can take to enhance into ABAP? That was my first question.
Okay. So maybe
I think,
let's
Nabir,
first.
these questions were asked in your community, that chat, right, many times. We want an ABAPers course for UI5ers.
Yeah, but yeah, man. So let me just add my 2 cents here. So let's just forget about the business as of now. Okay,
Okay.
we are not talking about to understand ABAP, because ABAP is just, if you talk about SAP UI5 also, on client side also you do stuff which is specific to client, right? That is also, we call it as a business logic, but that is specific to the client, right? So, but
Right.
in order to write that logic, we need to understand JavaScript or whatever programming language we know, right? So same way,
Right.
ABAP is not to write business. It is just that it is a program which writes logic, but I think it makes sense for you to understand ABAP basics from what are its capabilities, right? For example, you are sometimes demanding, I'm not saying you, I'm saying just when the front-end developer is not aware about the back-end constraints, the front-end
Yes.
developers will not empathize with what the situation of the ABAPer is, and same goes for an ABAPer, vice versa, right? So first of all, you need to get this thing out of this mindset that there's a business logic, and all business logic will vary here. For example, for some age an apple, for some age an animal, right? But for ABAP, it is a way to write. So what I will say is, remove this constraint and learn the basics, very basics. There are many series, as you know, Mahesh was saying, there are many series on YouTube, community.sap.com, which you can just blankly follow, and at least you will understand how what internal table is, how do we create OData services, what is CDS, what is EMDP. Then I think, so just forget that thought of a business logic, because that any day you will have to write it when the logic will be told to you, right? Select data from this,
Yeah.
this, do that. So, but important for you is to be ready for it, to understand the basics. So don't restrain yourself. Go ahead. Maybe YouTube also have good courses, and even on community.sap.com also we have developer tutorials for ABAPers, if I'm not wrong. Frankly speaking, I haven't checked, but I remember there was one, right?
Okay. Sure.
Maybe
Yeah,
Gaurav,
right.
you want to add, Gaurav?
Yeah, so I think if you really want to start from basics, okay, the way we had learned it, that there was one book called ABAP in 21 days. Okay, you
Yes.
will find copy of it somewhere over the internet. Okay, it must be there. Okay,
Yeah.
but I think now probably it is upgraded, because obviously the version from the 2005-6 won't match, won't give you the right picture. Okay,
Okay.
but I think if you really want to start from basic, probably pick some book, like someone has mentioned ABAP black book here. Okay,
Yeah.
just go through that, understand the basics, and there are some examples in these books. Try to do those, and then you have tutorials as well over the internet, and I think there are for the ABAP beginners a lot of YouTube videos as well. Okay, I think there are a lot of
Okay.
resources there. I think, and I think apart from listening and learning, try to do as well. But try to code. Okay, so you will
Okay.
learn as much as you code.
And
I think
Gaurav, I
that
hope it is still 21 days for ABAP. It's not increased to 30 days or something right now.
it would be
Yeah,
a
it's
ABAP
21
in
days.
Too many things came up recently, right?
I remember Black Book. I remember when I started, it was Black Book, which I think somebody purchased and I read through it. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
But I think now for me it is more of a videos than of a book, because videos I can learn quickly. A book is
Kishore also shared it in the, you know,
yeah.
The
Kishore
chat
shared it
will
in the
be.
comments. You can check that also.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. I will
Yeah,
follow
there
it.
are some
And
books on ABAP on introduction. The next version, which is ABAP to the future, is the latest one on ABAP. And there is
okay.
Clean ABAP, which was released
Sure.
last week.
But you start with ABAP basics, because ABAP to the
Yeah.
future
ABAP to the
and
future is
clean
very
ABAP
advanced.
will like
Okay.
bit.
So there is a book called
Sure.
ABAP on introduction. So you can
Yes.
start with that. It's a specific response.
Oh, okay. Thanks all. And my second question is especially to Mahesh actually. Mahesh.
Yes, man. don't ask me. I mean, I'll just interrupt. So don't tell me, man, how you are getting time?
No.
Are you married?
No.
Because lately two,
No.
three people ask
Not
me
like
this
that.
question.
No. Not like that. Actually,
I'm
it
just
is.
joking.
It's
I'm joking. I'm sorry.
okay. Yeah, I can understand. The question is that we got an update that all the coding are moving from WebID to SAP Business Studio.
Yeah.
And still the WebID only we are using. So what is the exact difference for this WebID and Business Studio? In what way it helps more for front-end development?
Okay. So yeah, first thing is you are right. They said that it will be moved, and I recently also checked a couple of days back. Still, all the projects still there in trial WebID. I don't know what they moved. So that is
And they
one thing.
mentioned the date to be November 13th as well. Till
Yeah, it's
up
going
to
-2,
November 13th, it
-3,
is available.
-4. It is showing that.
Yes.
But if you see, right, WebID is very much developer constraint. So you can't do many things in WebID. So it's like very limited. You cannot do many things. For example, let's say in Business Application Studio, you can use Node.js. You can install your own Node modules. You can install your own, cycle. Like first you need to, like CI/CD pipeline. Yes. So first it will check the application, and after that you can push it automatically to SAP. So these kind of things you can actually do in Business Application Studio, because it is I mean, it's like modular based in my opinion, and it is mostly based on
Okay.
Node.js. So that is my opinion on that. And of course, you will not find a lot of features that are available from WebID. It will still take time. For example, pushing to SAP system, right? It's not officially supported by SAP. I think I'm not sure, but there are many community projects are there which are doing that. So
Okay.
this is what I know, and there are many other advantages of Business Application Studio. For example, if you know Visual Studio, right? Visual Studio is like not for SAP. You can do SAP also there.
Yeah.
You can
Yes.
develop a VF application. You can even develop ABAP applications there. CDSUs and all. Some open source guy, Marcio, some guy is there. So he supported that. You can develop CDSUs in VS Code. So the thing what I'm trying to say is VS Code is such a configurable thing. You can configure any kind of module and make it work. So it is so much open to all development environments. Unlike WebID.
Okay.
WebID is like whatever SAP gives, right? Only you can use that. So this Business
Yeah.
Application Studio is kind of, it's not based on VS Code, but it offers all the functionalities that VS Code has. So for example, this anything you can bring your own language there, not language, kind of modules there. You can create your own templates easily. Many things you can do. These
Okay.
are some of my thoughts. I think Nabit also can give more thoughts on this for sure
Uh,
because he is
I
into
think,
VS Code 20.
yeah, I think again the philosophy is what SAP has done is it has looked into the outside world, how how the developers basically this application studio is a next step towards developer friendliness. Okay, and
Okay.
VS Code, of course, being the most used ID by us, right? Earlier it was Sublime and all. So what SAP has done was then SAP also, they everyone commit mistakes and then they learn and then they redo stuff, which is very common. So it was not a mistake. Web ID was more likely it was not that much extendable in the sense what do we call that thing exactly, where you can have as many as languages, as many as runtimes, or it was having fixed set of functionalities and developer has to rely on them. So, right. And but if you
Right.
have coded in VS Code with the Node.js available in your system, right, you can, the sky's the limit. You can have your own database also running SQLite. You can do crazy things, right? The same way what
Right.
then SAP also adopted this framework, although it's based on this Eclipse Thea. There's another, I think Thea it is, which is a kind of a web-based mm, Eclipse or VS Code version. So what they do is, I think it is a container which is running, right? It's an image container which is running. Each time you say that, okay, I need a Fury, this, you say start, it runs a container for you where you can run your own stuff. That's what I think is happening. And then you can add your modules, as Mahesh has already explained. You can customize it the way you want it. But
Okay.
if you ask me, will it have everything which is there in WebID? No, but it will take time. Everything will be here. For example, if you want to deploy SAP UI5 to the ABAP systems or something, we have this one project by Graham Robinson, SAP UI5 deployer or something. I think that can be used to deploy. You push your changes to GitHub. GitHub will automatically push to your something, your systems. In ABAP systems directly. I was using it in my personal WebID. The same thing. I was pushing to GitHub to the system deploying. But yes, so yes, it is the next way forward. But don't worry, the every feature will come there for sure. It will be in a better way. It is just that
Okay.
things are getting standardized.
And guys, it's getting little bit late for the next session, so we'll ask quickly. I mean, whatever you have experienced, right? Can you try to please share it quickly? Like Parth and Sachin and Manoj has raised their hands, so maybe we will start with Parth.
Yeah, hi Mahesh. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
Parth.
Yeah. Hey, Mahesh, first of all, thanks to Gaurav, Nabit, and Vijay for the great insights of all these things and how developer can shape them up for the upcoming development cycle or environment or era. So, see, my question is mainly revolving around the on-premise S4 HANA that we had done couple of implementations in S4 HANA for our couple of entities. So, what I found was that, the earlier output management, which we used to do in NAC, the logistics output management, now SAP has introduced BRF Plus. Secondary, old business workflow is still there. I think this will excite Gaurav, that is there, but flexible workflows are also given, which are more user friendly or kind of like more, end user can design their own workflow kind of thing. So the confusion part exists here also, since both the things are available. What I feel is developer tends to take the shortcut of going with what they are more comfortable, which they have worked on. That is, they will go for NSE or traditional business workflow rather than the flexible workflows. So I think, so is there any specific reason why SAP is still allowing both the things? Because maybe it might be developer might be taking a shortcut because of the tight project timelines and all. And since even you, me, or anyone, if I know something, then I tend to go to that path rather than exploring something new. So, basically the question is, SAP on-premise, at least I have seen in S4, all the new technologies and the new ways and old ways both available, and people going to the old way because they know it better or they have worked upon it.
Okay, so I will just take this. Okay, first coming to the output management. Okay, so we have a new S4HANA output management introduced where you can set the rules in like BRA plus setting, and then it works that way. And but we have old NACE as well. Okay, so the BRA plus output management, it is primarily for S4HANA Cloud because it works through your Fury application. You really don't need to log into backend for that. And the other benefit of that is it is for all the modules. Like if you see now, for your logistics module, you go to NACE. For your finance module, you have other output management framework through correspondence. Okay, if
Yes,
you
correct.
go to your if you're using EWM, it has separate framework. Okay, so all these modules, they have separate framework. But if you are using BRA plus output management framework, new output management, then it's only one framework, only one thing to understand. Okay, and it is also done only through the Fury applications. Okay, so it is there for S/4HANA Cloud for sure. There's no other option. But for the on-premise, old options still exist. Reason for that is there are some things which can be done only in the old ones, which cannot be done in the new output management. Like in the old output management system, you can put the special functions. Okay, where at the time of trigger of output management, you can actually trigger one form routine. Okay, same is not applicable in BRA plus output management. Okay, so by introducing the new output management framework, SAP doesn't want to limit the functionality. Okay, and also it doesn't want to force the people to go that way, because even the old one, okay, from the functionality perspective, there is no issue. Okay, it is working fine for so many years. It's a stable framework. And also, whether to use a new output management framework or old management frameworks, usually it's not the call of developer. Okay, it's usually the call at the kind of project level, or functional people take this call. Okay, so developer usually can do the configuration, but he or she will not take the call that which framework they will use. Okay, so obviously if you're using the new output management framework, it has to be used throughout the project. I think these are some of the reasons. So that's why these two things exist in the on-premise version, but in the S/4HANA Cloud version, it's only BRA plus output management. And also, if the customer has a roadmap to move to the cloud in future, okay, so and if they do the new output management framework now, it will be a seamless transition for the customer in future. Okay, so that platform is also being provided. I think similar things are there for the workflow as well. For the workflow, if you're using the new workflow, yes, you have a lot of option to configure it. Okay, so only key users can go and actually configure the different preconditions, different steps in the workflow. Okay, but for the old workflow, you really need a developer to change it. Okay, but again, there are some skill level challenges as well, and there are some probably functionality level challenges as well. So that's a call that is taken at the project level. Okay, and apart from that, there's from a functionality perspective, I think old frameworks are as good as new. Yeah.
Okay, got it, Gaurav. Thanks.
Pleasure.
I feel like SAP should put some pop-up message like, okay, you have this new framework, you can also use that instead of this. Like it comes for SE chat and SE30, right?
Yes.
It would be nice.
Yeah, and apart from this lighter note, I think somebody was asking Mahesh that Mahesh, how come you get so lot of time? You are unmarried, and the second reason is I am in current organization. I am manager of Mahesh.
That is actually true. So much thanks to Path for that. He's our lead architect in our
Then
organization.
you're the luckiest guy, man. You have got the right person. Otherwise, if you have somebody who doesn't work, for example, stubborn like me, then it'll be tough for you. Good.
No,
That is one thing good
in that,
about my organization.
Very nice. Yeah. Very good.
We'll
okay,
move
so
to
I
next.
think I'm done. Mahesh, anyone
Okay,
else, if they want to put
thanks.
forward something? Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Sachin, and you want to
Yeah,
say something?
yeah. Thanks, Mahesh. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Nabeed. Thanks, Gaurav. So these three guys I know personally. We met in SAP Chandigarh event, even though in TechEd also. Thanks, Chandra. Also, like overall insight was really good, and it was always pleasure to talk with you guys, meet with you guys, and like seeing your blog and everything on your tutorials. It's what always a good time spent, and it's almost 8 or 9 years now with me in SAP ABAP. So 1 year back or 2 year back, I've started learning, moving to other things, SAP UI5. Now recently I'm moving to S4 HANA as a new project also, and so that is like that inspired me from one of my manager here. So Nabit, he was my manager. So he inspired me. He inspired us a lot actually. So in our community group. So I tried to also things in that way, like what is next to me actually. So ABAP is going to end. What is next to me? So I start. Yeah. So I started in that way sense. So I jumped to JavaScript first. Then I jumped to UI5, and I try my hand 2-3 months, but seems like if you are not having basics of JavaScript, then you cannot learn it. So I quit at that time. So I again went to the Nabi tutorials, and earlier I already done the SAP Web UID or everything. I have learned it. So then I jumped to, so in between I'm one of building one application. I started that I'm not gearing up on that. So I jumped to JavaScript now, sometime back. So I learned JavaScript. Then after that, I'm again working on UI5. So I thought that first step would be the JavaScript learning. Then you jump to other things. Then ABAP Git and all things came in. Then then everything around 1 or 2 backs. I'm working on UI5 apart from the daily ABAP things, and then now I now moved to S4 HANA, and I learned AMDP, CDS view sometime back, and done the internal company certification also. So moving to the new project also in S4 HANA. So that is the new things I learned from community also in only. So like otherwise, if I'll talk about like 1 year back, I'm still, if I've not moved ahead, if I have not followed the right person, then I'll be still on the SAP thing ABAP only, like fixing bug and doing the enhancements and all those stuff, and like moving the projects only. So that is the take from last 1 or 2 years from the SAP community, that build my career ahead, and I'm learning actually as of now. So just to thanks to everyone who is part of this event. Thanks to the panels also, panelists.
Thanks,
Good one.
Sachin,
So that's
for
it.
sharing
And
your
I just
inspiration.
have one query. Like last year, we are in TechEd. So what is the take of this TechEd actually? What we have in our mind from this
Actually,
TechEd?
this is
Like
our
apart
next
from
session.
keynote and the session from Nabit also is my, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, Mahesh.
This
Then
your
we'll talk
question is the
in
next
that way.
session. We can talk about it. It will be very interesting. So we'll quickly. Sorry, Sachin, we have to quickly
Okay.
skip it. So, but thanks for sharing your experience,
No
and
issues.
you are actually
Yeah.
inspiring now
Just
everyone to
one thing,
be active in community.
I just remembered Sachin used to work in a system 4.6. CTO it was called 4.6 Stream 7. I
I
think
never saw that.
that journey from there to where he is, I think it's great. Sachin, important is just keep moving forward. Very good.
Yes.
Yeah, Mahesh, continue.
Lucky I never saw 4.6 till now.
Thank you.
Oh
Thank you,
boy,
man.
trust me, it was bad. Anyway,
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
too bad, yeah. No lining, no nothing, no pretty printer. Too bad.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
okay,
let's complete this thing with Manoj's question. So Manoj, you want to ask one?
Yeah, hi Mahesh, hi Navit, hi Gaurav. So actually I've been introduced to this, first I've been introduced to Navit, Mahesh and Gaurav to this SAP enthusiast group in Discord. I think, so actually I've been part of SAP Inside Track Bangalore group. So I've been part of that group. So I've been introduced in that. Someone have been posted that link for this group. So I've been added by someone over there. So actually, I want to share something as six years been worked into multiple skills like your ABAP and Oops ABAP and your also Fury and BOPF also I've been worked. So I've been worked for 2 years for as a contract employee with SAP Labs. So I've been part of procurement team earlier. So I've been worked for S4 HANA project and all the things. So now I've been joined another organization which is part of the which is delivering the insurance modules for SAP. So we are part of your SAP FPSL product development team as well. So my question is now I'm working in SAP BW as well as SAC, SAP Analytics Cloud. So from ABAP to BW and SAC. So I'm not being constant to any other like a particular one topics in because so I want to I need some guidance that like changing some topics in career is it like good for career or what? Navit? Because I've been
if
like as per the project
if
demands I've been working into hello
Manoj,
yeah
I will say this is the best thing, man. Change is the only constant. Rest everything
so
is
yeah
if you
so
are
because I've been like since last 7 months I've been part of SAP BW SAC reporting as well as your SAP FPSL functional module as well. So being like testing all the functional tests and all the things, being part of your smoke test for the product. So totally like we are working together with a Germany team. So we have so actually we are exploring more into the SAC reporting as well. So my concern is that we are because moving into new technology, I'm forgetting the other ones. Like I'm
no,
my
don't
core
worry, don't worry.
because my
That is the
core
first.
competency is like ABAP and
Hmm.
Fury and UFI.
Let me answer your
So
question here because
yeah, so I'm being
my
like
company
little bit
was.
confused. Oh, yeah.
Not worry, don't worry. In my company also we have different groups. For example, there is this one group of SAP Analytics Cloud, right?
Yeah.
So the first time I was asked to join it, and I was really happy because I will get to learn new things. Okay,
Yes.
definitely
Yeah.
you have your thing in the back end that what will happen to what I know already. So
Yes.
so then I thought that the only way to move forward is to keep learning new things. But how do I keep myself abreast with whatever is happening in other areas, for example, Fury and all, is through community. Okay,
Yeah.
you will never ever spend your whole life working in Fury. Trust me, you
Yeah.
will get bored, you will get irritated. So it's good you're learning SAP Analytics Cloud
Yes.
BW, but in order to keep up to date with the, for example, your BOPF, Fury, and other experiences, stay active in the community. All as
Yes.
I think Kishore mentioned, he spent 90 minutes. So if you just spend 60 minutes in the Fury UI5 area, you will still stay up to date, and in parallel, you might be answering SAP Analytics Cloud questions, helping people out. So,
Sure.
so,
Sure.
so don't. I think take it with a uh, uh, very positive way, and spend do spend 30
Yeah.
to 60 minutes, like Kishore said, so that you are also aware. But ऐसे कुछ नहीं, you will never forget it, right?
Yeah.
Whatever you
So
learn once,
yeah.
this time comes, you will
That's
forget
also
it.
true, but if you're not into the particular thing, then the things are not in your mind. Actually, if you have to, you need more time to like recollect those things as well.
If
So
you
that
ask,
is also
Actually,
one.
I
That's
have
why.
one suggestion in this. You see,
yeah,
Yeah.
here in my new organization, where I'm working with Path, right? So I get with little bit less Fury apps. To be frank,
Yeah.
maybe 2-3 Fury apps only I have done till now from 2 years. and mostly I'm into ABAP Word Data Services and ABAP side. But
Yeah.
still now people, I consider myself an expert in UI5, even though I'm not working much on that. You know why? Because I'm answering questions in community. Other people's
Yeah.
answers, other people's questions I'm answering, right? So I'm thinking it's like I'm doing their project indirectly or some of their issues.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you keep yourself updated in that.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, I have also not worked in many of the S4HANA areas and all, right? And
Yeah.
in fact, I have not worked in many of the areas, but you will not get everything, but at least you should, don't worry. In fact, you are lucky that you have already done productive work in those areas. So you cannot forget it. You will always remember it.
Yeah.
But in
Yeah.
case you have
That's
not
also.
done productive, yeah, but in case you have not done productive work, then community is there to give you productive work. Help as many as people you can, right?
Yeah.
As we should already do. Don't worry.
Also novice, yeah, actually novice session also helped me a lot for the like your Node.js and your I
Yeah,
think
man, I
JavaScript.
started many things, but did not complete them. Started with another
Yeah.
thing, but yes, I hope it
Yeah.
helps.
Also, Moise blogs in SAP communities also helped a lot. Like in BOPF part.
Yeah, this each and everyone who is
Yeah.
there on this call
Yeah.
is contributing to the betterment
Yes.
of themselves as well as of others. So that's the beauty of this. This
Yes.
is Saturday, man, and I see so many people here, right? So this
Yeah.
in itself
Yeah.
shows we are here to learn. Very good.
Yeah.
Good, yeah. Nice.
And
Yeah.
and thanks guys. I think this is
Thank
extended
yeah.
beyond 1 hour.
Thank you all. Yeah.
Yeah, thank
Thank you all
you,
guys. Yeah.
Manoj, for the question and all. And thank you very much for the panelists, Nabid and Gaurav and Vijay. You guys really gave some of your insights, and I feel like I am inspired now, and I feel like everyone also inspired, whoever are here. So I think they will think that there is more things beyond ABAP. There is, and also in ABAP itself, there are many things. So the only thing that keeps us be updated in these things is we just need to learn. We should not stop learning. So you guys really gave really good ideas, thoughts to every one of us, and thanks guys. And I'll close this session.